Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Snooze TV. We're so very excited to have you join us today. We're sorry we're getting started a couple of minutes late today. We had a little bit of a minor technical difficulty, but we have all of that, all of those issues resolved now. My name is Jennifer Beard, and I'm with the Hypersomnia Foundation, and I just want to welcome you to episode number 3 of Snooze TV. Tonight's episode is all about narcolepsy and narcolepsy advocacy. And we're so excited about the guest panel members that we have tonight for tonight's discussion. And so we're going to go ahead and get started by talking a little bit about how the audience can participate, because we want the show to be really interactive, and we want you guys to be able to pose your questions to our guest panel live on the air. And we're going to pull your questions onto the screen and give the guest panel members the opportunity to answer those questions for you live. And that's what makes this show really cool and really interactive. So in order to be able to do that, I have some tips for the audience that I'm going to share. And let's see if I can do a screen share. Nope, let me try again. Here we go. Okay, can you see my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I have 5 tips for the audience members, and the first tip is to keep your questions succinct. We can only see so many characters on our screen, and so in order for us to be able to see your question and be able to read it out loud on the air and answer it, please limit your characters so that we can kind of see your whole question. Please keep your questions general. None of us are physicians on the panel this evening. We certainly can't give you specific medical advice that's specific to your situation. So please don't put us in that situation. Just ask some general questions that might be of general interest to audience members tonight. You also want to pose questions that you think would be helpful for the audience. So you might know the answer to it, but if you think it would be helpful for us to discuss the answer to your question during the show, then definitely feel free to make that comment. We love to hear comments from you too, so if you're enjoying the show or if something that one of our panelists says resonates with you, please let us know that. And your question or comment may appear on screen, so be aware of that. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen now. Let's see. Are we back? So the way that you're going to post questions to our guest panel members is simply by typing in a comment underneath the video box window that you see us in right now. So if you're on our Google Plus page, you'll just type in a comment and click post, and we'll be able to pull your question on the screen. Or if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to post a comment underneath the video box there as well. If you happen to be watching us on our website at www.hypersomniafoundation.org, that's fine. You can certainly sit back and relax and watch the show there, but you won't be able to pose your questions there to us live. What you'll have to do is scroll down to the bottom of our website, and at the very bottom of our website, you'll see our social media icons. You can feel free to click on our YouTube icon or on our Google Plus icon and go watch the show on either of those pages and post your comments underneath the video chat box there so that we can see your question live on the air. So hopefully that helps. I just want to remind you that this show airs live the second Friday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we discuss a variety of sleep-related topics. And so with all of that said, I am so excited to introduce to you tonight our wonderful guest panel members. So, Michael, if you don't mind whiteboxing them as I introduce them, we're going to talk about Monica first. That's not Monica. Let me try again. Okay. So this is Monica Gao. She's the co-founder and executive director of Wake Up Narcolepsy, which is an advocacy organization dedicated to funding narcolepsy research and increasing awareness to reduce the diagnosis time. Monica is the mother of 3 teenagers, the oldest of whom has narcolepsy, and she lives in Massachusetts and has dedicated her life to improving the lives of people with narcolepsy. Welcome to the show, Monica. We're very happy to have you. Okay, next up is Jessica Davenport from Project Sleep. Jessica is the Fitness and Wellness Specialist for PSCU. PSCU is the nation's leading credit union services organization. She has her bachelor's degree in wellness leadership from USF. She is an ACE certified personal trainer, a Well Coaches certified health coach. She is extremely passionate about creating awareness for sleep health and sleep disorders, mostly because she knows what it's like to be a sleepy person herself. In 2006, Jessica was diagnosed with sleep apnea, and then in 2010, she was diagnosed with narcolepsy without cataplexy. In 2015, in conjunction with Project Sleep, she hosted the very first Sleepwalk Tampa Bay event. Now she currently volunteers as the Director of Sleep Education Strategies for Project Sleep. So welcome, Jessica. I can't wait to hear about your sleepwalk that you did in Tampa Bay. So welcome to the show. We're excited to have you here. Okay, we also have Molly Einen. She is from the Stanford Center for Narcolepsy. And Molly developed narcolepsy with cataplexy at age 22. Although excessive daytime sleepiness, or EDS, was present, it was her rather severe cataplexy that caused her to seek care. Molly was fortunate as she was diagnosed on her first doctor's visit within a couple of months of first developing symptoms. Molly was later a study subject in narcolepsy research at Stanford near the time of the discovery of the loss of hypocretin as the cause of classic narcolepsy cataplexy. In a funny twist of fate, Molly has worked at the Stanford Center for Narcolepsy as the clinical coordinator for the last 14 years. She has worked in numerous other volunteer positions, helping in roles of support for people with narcolepsy throughout the years. Welcome, Molly. We appreciate you being here on the show with us tonight.
Thank you.
We also have Melissa Patterson, who is representing the Narcolepsy Network. And Melissa was diagnosed with narcolepsy in her freshman year of high school and attended her first Narcolepsy Network conference the following year. She has completed her master's degree in public policy in 2013, and she now works for Narcolepsy Network as their outreach coordinator. Melissa is especially interested in working with youth, and she has helped expand Narcolepsy Network's resources for teenagers and young adults. And back with us again this week, we're very happy. Oh, thank you. Welcome to the show, Melissa. We are so excited to have you here tonight. And then back with us again, we have Michael Scarrace, our wonderful and fabulous technical producer. He wasn't able to be with us last week because he was busy closing on a house, so we're very happy to have him back this week. And you won't be able to see him because he doesn't have a webcam, but this is his picture. And Michael Scarrace is a product management analyst for Home Depot. He received his Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy at Clemson University and began his career working for Clemson University's Master of Public Administration program. This led to an exciting opportunity working as CPO for an education technology startup in Virginia. After Michael met his wife Deidre, he began looking for a position here in the Atlanta area, where he currently resides and works. Michael became interested in the Hypersomnia Foundation after his wife, recently diagnosed with idiopathic hypersomnia, attended the 2014 Hypersomnia Conference. He has a background in web development, data analysis, tech support, and distance education. And Michael is here tonight to make sure we don't have too many technical difficulties. So thank you, Michael, for being here with us again. And we also, jumping in at the last minute, thank you so much, Kate, for stepping up and jumping in for us. We have Kate Murray. She is another one of the board members here at the Hypersomnia Foundation, and she's here just to help us out with some of the diagnostic criteria for narcolepsy. And then she will be hopping out and probably watching the show from her home. So thank you, Kate, for jumping in at the last minute. We really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for being here. So I wanted to throw the first question out to Molly. And I thought it would be good, guys, if we just go over the diagnostic criteria for narcolepsy first and foremost so that we all kind of know what we're talking about. And so, Molly, I wonder if you'd be willing to share with us the diagnostic criteria that you have available for narcolepsy.
Did we want to let Kate go first so she can hop off sooner to do the DSM criteria, or do you want me to start with the ICD-9?
Sure, let's have Kate do the criteria on her side first, if that's okay with you, Kate.
Sure is. Yes. The diagnostic criteria I am reading are from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, and it is under sleep-wake disorders. And the criteria are recurrent periods of irrepressible need to sleep, lapsing into sleep, or napping occurring within the same day. These must have been occurring at least 3 times per week over the past 3 months. That is A. And B comes in 3 parts, and you need only one of the 3 to have a diagnosis of cataplexy. They do not differentiate between the different forms except that you specify in the coding what the subtype is. So to have a diagnosis, you either have episodes of cataplexy, hypocretin deficiency, or the findings on nighttime polysomnography showing rapid eye movement or REM sleep latency, and that obviously meaning the time that it takes until you go into REM sleep that is less than or equal to 15 minutes, or on a multiple sleep latency test, you have a sleep latency of 8 minutes or less and 2 or more sleep onset REM periods. And those are, those are the criteria according to the DSM-5.
Thank you, Kate, for sharing the DSM-5 criteria with us. We appreciate it.
And I'll jump off and watch.
Thank you for joining us, Kate. Okay, so Molly, that was the DSM-5 criteria. What criteria will you be sharing with us, and how is it different than what Kate shared with us?
Well, it's the ICD-9 codes, and this is the newest version, and they have separated out narcolepsy with cataplexy separate from narcolepsy without cataplexy, and they've actually renamed them because of the confusion. So now what they call narcolepsy type 1 is the following. So that is hypocretin, or the alternate names to narcolepsy type 1 are hypocretin deficiency syndrome, narcolepsy cataplexy, or narcolepsy with cataplexy. And both criteria A and B must be met. Criteria A is the patient has daily periods of irrepressible need to sleep or daytime lapses into sleep occurring for at least 3 months. And then criteria B has 2, and either one or both of the following points under B must be met. And criteria number 1 under B is cataplexy, and as defined, and we can go over some of the definitions, and a mean sleep latency of less than 8 minutes and 2 or more REM sleep onset periods on an MSLT according to standard techniques, and a SOREM within 15 minutes of sleep onset on the preceding nocturnal polysomnogram may replace one of the SOREMs on the MSLT. So that's based on some more recent research where they found it's very rare for people to go into REM in the first 10 or 15 minutes of a nighttime sleep study unless you have narcolepsy. So sometimes it does happen occasionally in people who don't have narcolepsy, but that finding is rather new, but it's actually more rare to go into REM on a nighttime study than it is to go into REM on those napping tests. And then the second point underneath B is CSF hypocretin levels that are less than 110 or 1/3 of the mean values obtained in normal subjects with the same standardized assay. And I can just say from my experience here, kind of a normal mean level of hypocretin in people who don't have anything wrong in controls is about 350, and that's where that level of 110 or below comes from. And then there is the second criterion, and there is more elaborate descriptions of these different things that if people have specific questions that we can go over. And then the second diagnosis is now called narcolepsy type 2, and the alternative names for that is narcolepsy without cataplexy. And the diagnostic criteria for this, both criteria A through E must be met. So there's a longer list of criteria. So A, the patient has daily periods of irrepressible sleep or daytime lapses into sleep occurring for at least 3 months. B, a mean sleep latency of less than 8 minutes and 2 or more sleep onset REM periods are found in the MSLT. A SOREM on the preceding nocturnal polysomnogram may replace one of the SOREMs on the MSLT. So, for example, if somebody went into REM on the nighttime study in the first 10 or 15 minutes, but only went into REM on one of the naps, that too would meet the criteria. C, cataplexy is absent. D, either CSF hypocretin has not been measured or CSF concentration is greater than 110 or greater than that 1/3 mean value of what's found in normal subjects. And E, the hypersomnolence or MSLT findings are not better explained by other causes such as insufficient sleep, obstructive sleep apnea, delayed sleep phase disorder, or the effect of medication or substances, or there can influence that. So all of those criteria, A through E, must be met to meet that narcolepsy type 2 diagnosis. And that's it.
Great. Thank you for sharing that with us, Molly. Good grief. That's such a lot of information to take in, and it seems like such a complicated process for diagnoses. But I think one of the key points that I just took away from that is that it can't be caused by some other means. So if it's a medication that's making me sleepy, or if I'm, sleeping 4 hours a night and working way more than I should be, and that's what's causing my sleepiness, then, the criteria would not fit somebody like me, for instance, if that were the case. We have a shout out for you, Molly. Ruth, let me see if I can pull your comment up here. So Ruth says, if Molly's the clinical coordinator at Stanford, I might have spoken with her a few months ago. She referred my husband to Emory due to his idiopathic hypersomnia symptoms, and that was so helpful. And it's nice to see your kind face. What a sweet thing to say, Ruth. How sweet. And Ruth is also saying, Jessica, that she saw mention of your sleepwalk on Twitter the other day, and she's interested in hearing more about that event. So thank you for your comments, Ruth. Keep them coming, everybody. We appreciate our audience interacting with us, and we will certainly be talking a lot more about the wonderful things that these organizations are out there doing for the community as we go along through the show. So I kind of want to jump in now that we've defined what narcolepsy is, and I want to talk a little bit, for those of you who have narcolepsy, what is it that you want people to understand about living with narcolepsy? So just an average person that's out there that may or may not know very much about narcolepsy, what do you want to take away from, oh, I'm getting a little bit of an So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. And maybe Jessica, start with you.
Absolutely. So if someone's been recently diagnosed with narcolepsy, I would really want them to know to reach out to any and or all of the organizations that are out here and are a part of this call tonight, to not feel alone. So one of our big campaigns with Project Sleep that Julie Flygar, the founder, started was the Narcolepsy Not Alone Project. And that was, again, to reach out because medications, diagnosis, it can be overwhelming. I often said for me personally that being diagnosed was just the first step. After that came several years of up and downs of trials of medications and different things. And it was only through connecting at that time with people through the internet, through the different blogs and social networks, because I had never met another person in real life with narcolepsy. So I really feel like for anyone that's been diagnosed and to reach out, whatever it is, connect with another person that has narcolepsy, because that can really help tremendously. That social support sometimes can help almost just as much as some of the medications, because this is a chronic, lifelong disorder. So having someone that can understand what you're going through is very, very important. So I definitely say reach out, get connected, and be a part.
Thanks, Jessica. Molly, do you want to chime in and maybe tell the audience and the community what you would like people to know about what it's like living with narcolepsy?
I've lived with narcolepsy now for a very long time. It's almost hard to remember what living without narcolepsy was like. But I would say one of the things that I've found, in addition to medications for the treatment, is that the more consistent I can be in kind of implementing healthy habits in my life helps make managing the symptoms better. So the medications help, the healthy lifestyle habits help, but I still have my symptoms of narcolepsy really are never completely gone. But I will say it's much easier to manage when I'm able to, now that I'm on the best medications that control most of my symptoms, and able to implement, eating right, going to bed at consistent times, waking up at consistent times, taking naps. Naps are sometimes the best medicine for people with narcolepsy, where that's not always true in idiopathic hypersomnia. So, so for me, I would say one of the best hint is take a nap before the nap takes you. Would be one of my mottos.
Oh, I like that little motto. That's great. Thank you. Melissa, let's see if you can unmute yourself, and I wonder if you would be comfortable talking about what people should understand about living with narcolepsy.
Sure. For me, one of the things that the general public should understand is that narcolepsy isn't just falling asleep in your soup or falling down because of cataplexy. It's also the brain fog. It's also the little micro sleeps, the automatic behavior because your brain's asleep but the body's awake. And so there's all of that goes along with it. Also, I'd echo what Jessica said at Project Sleep said, that for someone who's been diagnosed with narcolepsy, you're not alone, and it's so helpful to have people who have been there and done that. I see a lot in our community of people trying to reinventing the wheel, because it's a rare condition, so maybe no one in your community, your physical community, geographic community, has it. But we're out here on the internet, and one of the really powerful things that Narcolepsy Network does is our conference, because for so many people that's the first time they've ever met anyone with narcolepsy aside from themselves. And that is such a powerful and life-changing experience, and it's something that I feel very strongly is one of the greatest strengths of my organization, because it gives people a chance to network and communicate and solidarity.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much for sharing that. Monica, I wonder if you would be willing to share from a parent point of view what you see your child going through, because I think that's such a valuable perspective to share with the community as well. So as a parent, what do you want people to understand about a child who lives with narcolepsy?
Well, first of all, for my son, I know for not everyone, but for my son it is very invisible. So the struggles he has and just everything he has to go through to make it to school, to do the whatever activities he wants to be involved in is really difficult. so many behind the scene type of things. However, he is really determined and driven. But I know, you know, he's had narcolepsy now for 7 years, and it's not every year, but it seems like a process. And I think parents, when their children are diagnosed, it's almost like they have to have patience and figure out what medications work, and just be patient that things will improve once they find the right medication. And they do have to advocate for their children, and they have to find the right fit of the neurologist or whichever doctor is treating their child. I just think that that's very key. And just support the child and help them learn to self-advocate, you know, through school, and finding somebody on the inside of the school systems that can help, and really just, you know, pushing for your child and not stopping, not letting anything stop you. I think that's probably key in a nice way.
So can we talk about school just for another second? Has anyone on the panel needed accommodations that they had to formally request in their school? Or Monica, as a parent, did you have to ask for accommodation for your child? So I just want to put that into that.
Yeah. Yeah, as a student, I was lucky enough to have really great teachers the year I was diagnosed, who cut me a lot of slack and put a lot of classroom supports in place, but in the end my mom did, and moms are so important. As Monica said, keep fighting and don't stop, but she did have to formally request accommodations. I was unmedicated at that point, and I had very bad disrupted nighttime sleep. So even once I started the stimulant medications, I was still horribly sleep deprived, which is awful if you're doing school. So extra time on tests and quizzes, adjusting the due dates so that not all the assignments coming due fell on top of one another. And the point Monica made about finding someone in the school system who is sort of behind the scenes and has your back is very important. I had a really good guidance counselor my 9th grade year. In fact, the only really good guidance counselor I had in my entire school career was that year. So you have to think there is some serendipity there. And just finding that ally within the school system is very important.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'd like to say is due to the nature of the sleepiness of narcolepsy, I think going to school is the most difficult thing to do, because so many of the school activities are fairly passive. It's listening to a lecture, it's reading a chapter, it's watching a movie. So one thing I admire, I mean, we see tons of kids here at Stanford, and I've got to say I just always am so impressed on how tough these kids are, and how I know it's so much harder, and I think they're working 2 and 3 times harder than everybody else. But the one thing I always tell young people and tell parents is it does get easier as you get older, because life is more flexible, and your schedule is more your own. Even going to college, I think for some is easier than high school, because they can schedule their classes around the times that work, and schedule a nap time in where that's not always as possible. As somebody who writes accommodations for for many kids who have narcolepsy, that most kids don't want a whole lot of accommodations, but probably the most important accommodations for the kids who do the best in school is taking that nap in the middle of the day. And so sometimes as people with narcolepsy, we need to learn to give ourselves permission to do that. So even though I was older and really grateful to have finished school before I developed narcolepsy, later on I had to learn to give myself permission to take those naps. I was always worried that somebody might think I wasn't pulling my own weight or might judge me in some way, but it was my own ego that got in the way. And once I was accepting of that and allowed myself to take a nap, it really helped me be better at everything that I did, because it was important to my doing well. Anyhow, I think the naps,
Yes.
I think the kids who do take a nap do tend to do better, but there are many of them who don't want to take a nap, and that's their prerogative.
Right.
As well.
I agree.
Can I
Molly.
jump in for a second? I just wanted to jump in and say, especially with our teenagers, and again, I wasn't diagnosed till I was, let's see, 5 years ago after my son was born. So I can't even imagine being a teenager and having, to go through this, because so I have a 16-year-old stepdaughter, and she's phenomenal, and she's in honors classes and doing these things. And certainly what we know now is our teen generation, they are the most sleep deprived. I think there's huge awareness, and it's really being worked on now to raise awareness for our teens that are so sleep deprived, again, from a lot of different things, the timings of schools and things like that. But my daughter Gabby will tell me how she sees people sleeping all the time in classes. And who knows, maybe they're just sleep deprived. Some of them may have narcolepsy. We don't even know because they're so sleep deprived. But I liked what, and forgive me, I'm not sure who mentioned it earlier, but a couple of things. It's invisible. It's so hard. No one can look at someone with a sleep disorder, narcolepsy or hypersomnia, and know, because we look fine on the outside. And like you mentioned, giving permission. So a quote we've been talking about recently at Project Sleep was, sleepiness is not laziness. And I have to remind myself of that so often too, that giving myself permission to take that nap, that at work that they won't look differently, or and they're very supportive. But so if you are a teenager and you're trying to get ahead and get great grades and get into school and you're pushing, you don't want people to think you're lazy. But if you're sleepy, you've got to take that break. You've got to take care of your body.
Right. And Jennifer, can I just add one thing too regarding the accommodations?
Please, absolutely.
Just not to forget about the standardized testing accommodations with the SATs and the ACTs, and I'm sure Molly, handles the accommodation requests on those. But we have had, the ACT accommodations rejected and have had to resubmit. So just, not give up on those as well, either. And then I think the accommodations changed probably slightly when going into college. Just being able to request your exam. Your classes. Be one of the first ones to indicate the classes.
Priority scheduling.
And priority scheduling. Yep. And also the accommodations regarding housing. Depending if somebody's going to be living alone in a dorm, or will they be having roommates. I don't know. Those are the things that we're thinking about now, since my son will be entering college next year.
And I can speak to some of those, having been through college with narcolepsy, if that's anything someone would be interested in.
Sorry, I was muted again. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. In terms of college, one of the big things is deciding roommate or no roommate. Personally, I'm in favor of having a single room, but then having roommates who share a bathroom or a common room with you. So they're called suite mates instead of roommates, because that's someone who is sort of a built-in social option, particularly for a freshman year. I mean, even if you have the most awful roommates or suite mate experience ever, that too is a social bonding experience. You talk to other people and say, oh my gosh, my roommate is so awful, and their boyfriend is this hairy thing that lives on the floor of our dorm, and it's awful. So that can be a bonding experience as well. And it is also a support system. So for example, we had fire drills, and we also had fire drills caused by people burning the popcorn in the microwave. I was exempt from the actual fire drills. We talked with campus safety, and that's something you definitely need to do, particularly if your child is on Xyrem. Talk to campus safety, explain that they aren't going to be as responsive at night, and that they're going to be very groggy and unable to respond in an emergency, so that campus safety knows they're there. My parents arranged for me to have first floor accommodations, so that in the event of emergency it was very easy to get in and out. But your suite mates are important, or roommates can be important for those times when it's not a planned drill. It's the popcorn or the cheesy toast or the microwave mashed potatoes catching on fire. So that's when they can say, no, no, we can smell burning popcorn, you stay in bed, it's not an emergency. Or get you out if that worst case scenario comes to pass. They're also good for the, if you oversleep your alarm, which I will cop to doing once or twice. So they can be a good support system, but you really do want to get campus safety or housing, however that's handled on your campus, on your side, to handle some of those issues associated with it. And also for medications, lock them up. Don't tell people about them. Don't tell your roommate about it if you can help it. Lock the medications up. A lot of people with narcolepsy take some of the ADHD drugs, and I was not hanging out with people who were using a lot of performance-enhancing drugs, but I was offered my own medication without a prescription multiple times when I was on campus, and obviously I had no need for it and did not seek it out. So if you do seek it out, it is there, and you don't want your kid's medication to become a casualty of that. So lock it up, get a safe, get a lockbox.
It's a great point.
Great point.
Yeah, these are all really, really good tips you guys are sharing. It's going to help a lot of families out there. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So one thing that I want to talk about are some common myths that you all, or people with narcolepsy in general, confront on a daily basis, and myths that you have to dispel about the disease, the sleep disorder. And I want to try something where we open this up to our audience members as well. Audience members, if you're out there and you can think of a common myth about narcolepsy that you would like to confront or dispel, if you could just type that into the comment box, and we'll pull some of your myths up on screen while some of our guest panelists are talking about it. And I think it was Jessica who shared one earlier. Sleepiness is not laziness, and I think that that's not only true about the narcolepsy community, but that sort of is kind of a pervasive and overall thing, even with idiopathic hypersomnia and some of the other sleep disorders that are out there in the community. So sleepiness is not laziness, I think, is a good one. But are there other myths that need to be confronted and dispelled about narcolepsy? Anybody want to jump in?
Well, I like what Melissa said earlier about not falling asleep in your soup. I mean, that's what whenever I tell somebody I have narcolepsy, they're like, oh, does that mean you're going to just fall asleep right in front of me in a few minutes? And I say no. But that's probably one of the most common, and to really make people understand that, again, in my case, well, I like to say with narcolepsy, every case is unique. It took me even a long time to understand that I have narcolepsy. My narcolepsy is very different than somebody who has narcolepsy with cataplexy. It's a spectrum. So the biggest things for me are a lot of cognitive things, memory, especially short-term memory, and when I get really tired, say even my colleagues, my family that knows me, they can tell when I've reached that point where I'm starting to feel sleepy because I'm just not with it, not focused as much. So one of the biggest things too is realizing it's so many of those little cognitive things that just focus, productivity, different things like that. So again, the reality for me is I'm not going to fall asleep in front of you, and it's not a joke.
I think cataplexy is largely misunderstood as well. I think that many people think that cataplexy is somebody falling asleep, and that sometimes that joke of the falling asleep in your soup is a misunderstanding what cataplexy is. And even and a lot of the TV specials that have been done that describe narcolepsy with cataplexy, when they describe cataplexy, they kind of describe it as falling asleep. And for somebody who used to have a whole lot of cataplexy, it's the antithesis of that. It's when I was most engaged and most enjoying myself that I would have cataplexy. And I feel that when people are fighting cataplexy, they're using the energy of lifting trucks over their head to fight the cataplexy. It is not submitting to some sleepiness just suddenly, but that's really largely misunderstood, and it feels like even a lot of sleep doctors don't understand cataplexy as well as they could.
Yeah, I saw a YouTube video that a young lady posted recently. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I thought it was so incredibly brave of her. She was filming herself doing some Japanese dance, and as it turned out, she had some micro sleeps and some cataplexy episodes, and she posted it on YouTube to try to help dispel some of those myths. And I thought that was incredibly brave of her and a very, very powerful video to put out there on social media. So I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to see that, but thank you, Molly, for sharing that. And interestingly, we have a lot of comments from our audience members coming in right now, so I'm going to pop a couple of those up on the screen. So Sloan says, you don't have narcolepsy if you don't fall asleep mid-sentence, or if you don't fall asleep while walking or while eating, etc. So yeah, I think that that's definitely a myth. And we have another one from Anne here, who says that people with narcolepsy cannot drive. So does anybody want to speak to that, about driving and having narcolepsy?
Well, I have been driving and since before I developed narcolepsy, and I've never ever had a car accident, and I treat it with a great deal of respect. It's not my strength or strong suit. I'm not the person who wants a long commute or is volunteering to drive here and there, so I avoid it as much as possible because it isn't a strength of mine. But if anybody at any time had ever said, oh, and by the way, you can't drive, single mother with narcolepsy who's trying to work and support your daughter, it would have made my life even harder. So I felt that, I feel still after all these years, that I've really demonstrated that I've treated it with a great deal of respect. I've never had a car accident, but it is something that I don't choose to do a lot of.
And I would say that going back to, well, last summer when Honda came out with their commercial about the Honda Fit and made a joke about it. It was only up for a little while, but that basically the whole thing was this gentleman. The Fit was this new Honda car, and it was lots of cute little segments in it, and there just happened to be somebody that kind of pretended like they were falling asleep, and the person said, well, you really shouldn't be driving anyway. And oh boy, did that cause a storm from the narcolepsy community, because if you have narcolepsy, it is not a joke, and we take driving very, very seriously. And so to maintain your driver's license. But thankfully, I think something that was negative actually turned into a really big positive when Honda decided to do a public service announcement that kind of came through the whole narcolepsy community, and then put those public service announcements out there to really say what narcolepsy is. So yes, we take driving very seriously, and people can drive, and I think people with narcolepsy even go much further to ensure that they are safe drivers than, I'd say, some of the millions of sleepy drivers that we have out there.
So Ruth posted a comment. Let's see. And she says, yeah, I saw that too. I think, Ruth, you're talking about the YouTube video where the young lady posted bravely about having cataplexy. Thank you. I'm not the only one who saw that video. So thank you for posting that comment. And then we have another question. Let me scroll back down here from Jane. She's asking, on average, how long does it take to receive a diagnosis of narcolepsy? So does anybody have a thought about that? I know that's kind of a tough question to answer.
Well, the last, I don't think the statistics are very good. So the last paper that documented it was done, I think it was published in the late 70s, early 80s, and at that time the number was 14 years. It'd be interesting if somebody could do a large-scale, good study. I would say what I see in the sleep clinic here at Stanford, and maybe we're unique at Stanford, but I would say we see a lot of people within the first year of developing symptoms. And even if we don't see them until 2 or 3 years later, they are getting diagnosed accurately with narcolepsy fairly rapidly. I would say within a year or two, or probably like Melissa's experience. But what we're finding oftentimes is they often don't get on the right medications until years later. So that even though somebody has finally figured it out and sent them to a sleep doctor and they get the sleep diagnosis, let's say a year, but when you're a young one, a year is a very long time. But then it may
Uh-oh, did we lose Molly? Did we lose her? Maybe we'll come back to Molly in just a second. We have a couple more questions from our audience members. Garrett says, I was diagnosed with narcolepsy without cataplexy about a year ago, and one of the challenges seems to be finding out exactly how it affects me. And then we also have a comment from Beth, who wonders if there's a possibility of a genetic connection between family members. And woo, we're getting a lot of comments. And then another question from Beth about medications for people who have narcolepsy without cataplexy and idiopathic hypersomnia. And are they the same, and are people responding in a similar fashion to those? So I don't know that we can address that particular question because none of us are medical professionals on the show tonight. But is there any information about a possible genetic connection? Do we know about that at all? Anyone on the panel?
Molly would be the better person to answer this question, I think, but there is a genetic component in that there's a marker, a gene marker for it, and it's unfortunately one that's shared by a large part of the population. So there's both environmental and genetic components to the condition. So you can have the genetic marker and not have narcolepsy, but it's very rare for you to have narcolepsy and not have the genetic marker, although I do know a couple of people who don't have that marker and do have narcolepsy.
Thanks, Melissa, for sharing that. We're actually coming to the end of our time here pretty soon, so I just want to switch gears for a few minutes and let's talk about some advocacy stuff and wonderful things that your organizations are doing. So how did Sleepy Saturday go for everybody last weekend? So I just wanted to start with that question. What did we do or focus on for Sleepy Saturday as far as our organizations are focused on? So Monica, can we start with you on that?
Sure. We actually had a narcolepsy awareness campaign running for the entire National Sleep Week last week, beginning on Rare Disease Day, and it was focused on a social media campaign and then traditional media in Michigan, which is where one of our board members is, and Massachusetts. And we did have a wide reach and felt as though it was a successful campaign. We shared a lot, Wake Up Narcolepsy. We had a little icon of a clock, an alarm clock, and we shared alarming facts every day about narcolepsy. And then we also asked people to take alarmed face selfies and post them on the social media and tag people, and we were able to reach one of the public figures with narcolepsy, and she, which was great because she has a much larger reach. Her name is Ginger Z, and she's the meteorologist on the Good Morning America show. So in our final, we kind of wrapped up giving a tiny little spiel on outside of the Good Morning America show. We wrapped up our Sleep Week with that, so we felt as though we had a successful campaign during Sleep Week to raise narcolepsy awareness. That's what we did.
Oh, that's awesome, Monica. Thank you for sharing that. Melissa, can you share with us a little bit about Sleepy Saturday from Narcolepsy Network's point of view? Did you guys do anything for Sleepy Saturday?
Sure. Yeah, we had a number of members request proclamations officially recognizing it as Suddenly Sleepy Saturday in their state. I know we had over 30. Then we also had the one I personally found most entertaining because I got to go and attend it, the Narcolepsy Bed Race in Virginia, and that is an event in which people raise awareness by getting a team together and racing a bed with wheels on a course, and you're racing against the clock. We had a great turnout for that. Hundreds of people turned out for it, news coverage and coverage in the local papers, so that was great. There's fantastic photos of that online at WDBJ7, which is the Roanoke, Virginia CBS affiliate. So if anyone wants to go check that out, or at the narcolepsybedrace.org. We also have a new informational video that we put out in raising awareness for Suddenly Sleepy Saturday, and you can find that on our website.
And do you want to share with us what your website is, Melissa?
Sure, narcolepsynetwork.org.
Oh, great. Jessica, did we lose you for a second?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Oh, good, you're here. Do you want to tell us about Sleep Saturday for Project Sleep?
Absolutely. It was a fun day. It was a blast. We actually had the very first sleep-in event. So really, it was international. So Julie Flagger's headquarters are out in LA. So we say we were LA to Tampa Bay hosting sleep-ins. So basically, we were asking people to make peace with sleep. So instead of going out and doing things, staying home, we had lots of people make pledges for certain amounts of times that they were going to stay in bed and relax and make peace with sleep. And they made peace posters and just had a great time here in Tampa Bay. Although we did get out, we had an event at a local park and had a sleep physician and a sleep technologist, and lots of people came and we gave out information, and we did sleep-in selfies in the park, set up a big bed and peace signs, and just really to raise awareness, and it was just a lot of fun. So I think the idea that we all kind of need to make peace with sleep and that it's a good thing. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, I know I certainly need to make peace with it because I have not yet recovered from spring forward. This is always such a tough time of year for me, and I don't have a sleep disorder that I know of, so I can only imagine how tough it is on many members of our community. So I empathize with everybody out there in the community. So let's talk about what's most challenging in your advocacy work with your organization. What do you find is the greatest challenge for your organization? So Monica, I'll throw that one to you first.
Sorry.
I think
am
you're
I muted,
Monica?
Okay.
Okay.
I think Michael unmuted me. So we, started Wake Up Narcolepsy to raise money to support research, and the raising money part is the hardest for us, and it gets harder and harder every year. So right now we have our biggest fundraising campaign is the Boston Marathon team that we have, and this will be our 6th year of having a team of runners, and that is primarily that's the largest chunk of money we receive for our to support researchers like Dr. Mignot and Dr. Scammell and a couple of others, Dr. Naranj in Toronto at a children's hospital up there. So basically that is our biggest challenge, raising money for a disease that is, people on the outside see my son and he makes everything on the outside look so easy, but it's not, and it's just because of that being an invisible disease, it's just really, really tough. So that's our biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think raising money is definitely a big challenge. So all you guys out there in the community watching this video, pick one organization that resonates with you and donate $5. We need your help. Melissa, do you want to share with us a challenge that your organization experiences and what that is?
I think for us, since we're the largest and the oldest narcolepsy organization, one of the big challenges we face is just making sure that everyone gets a voice. We're a large organization. We try and run things democratically in many ways, because we feel that it's really important that all corners of the community do get a voice, because we don't want to exclude anyone, and we do want to make sure that the different needs of different communities are heard. I know we have a number of people who have difficulty sometimes paying for their medication, so we want to make sure their voice is heard. We also have people who really that's not a concern, but they would very much like their high-powered law degree to get them jobs where they can actually take a nap at their desk, so they would like more employment. So trying to respond to all the needs of our very diverse and broad community, and making sure that we give everyone a seat at the table. That's probably the biggest challenge for us as a large organization with diverse membership. I think we had 500 people at the last conference, so.
Wow, that's incredible. That's wonderful. Molly, from your point of view at the Stanford Center for Narcolepsy, what is the biggest challenge that you all experience?
Well, I would say related to fundraising. So, research takes money, but I would say also, given the number of people who have narcolepsy, the funding for NIH research is so minuscule in sleep disorders and narcolepsy in particular, and I would say even less funded for idiopathic hypersomnia, and narcolepsy without cataplexy have even less funding. It's the money that can really help fund really big projects. They have fairly deep pockets, but it's not appreciated. So even when the grants go up for review, they're being
Did we lose Molly again?
I think we may have.
Michael, can you check in with her, and I'll go with to Jessica for a minute, and hopefully we can get Molly back in a minute.
Sure.
Jessica, from Project Sleep's point of view, what is the biggest challenge that you guys experience?
I would say right now, as being kind of a fairly younger nonprofit, that we have so many phenomenal projects that we're working on, and we're very, very excited about. It's just kind of taking our time, trying not to get too ahead of ourselves and take on too much at once, making sure that we can do all the things that we'd like to do effectively. So we're just trying to take it a little bit at each time and really grow and have fun with the different projects that we're doing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't see that Molly's back, so I'll try to make the point that she was making, that the National Institute of Health has fairly deep pockets, and they're the ones that really can fund some substantial research projects, and we really need them to look at sleep disorders a lot more and consider funding those projects. And hopefully that was the point that she was trying to get across to everybody. So if they're watching this YouTube video, help us out, would you? Help out the community. So I know that we're running out of time, and I can't believe it. This hour has just flown by. So I just want to wrap up by giving you each the opportunity to talk about some project that your organization that's up and coming that you really want to let the community know about. And also, if you wouldn't mind providing one tip to somebody out there in the community with narcolepsy, or a family member or a loved one or a supporter of somebody who has narcolepsy, what's one tip that you would offer to be helpful for those people? So Monica, I'll go to you first to talk about something that Wake Up Narcolepsy is working on and to give a tip.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you. The major project we have right now is the Boston Marathon fundraising team, and that is a great opportunity for our runners to raise awareness and to raise funding. for research, and that is April 20th, and people can learn about that on our website, wakeupnarcolepsy.org. And one tip I would give to parents is what I've observed with my son is that he was not able to articulate how he felt on different medications, so I would speak to other adults who had narcolepsy who were on various medications and ask them what the side effects were, and then I would go back and ask him, do you feel this way or that way? And that seemed to work okay for us, and just really advocate. If you don't go with your gut as a parent, if you don't feel like your child is getting better, then see a different doctor. That type, just don't stop until you feel like you have the best treatment and the best care and the best medications for your child.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Melissa, do you want to talk about a project that Narcolepsy Network is working on or has up and coming, and offer a tip to people out in the community?
Sure. I know we have our New York City sleepwalk coming up, and I don't have an exact date off the top of my head because I am not in New York City and will not be able to attend it, and I have an awful memory for dates. You can find it on our website, however, so if you want to look it up there, and that is coming up this spring. It would be on Suddenly Sleepy Saturday, but it gets too cold in New York. So we also have our conference coming up in October, and I encourage anyone to attend if you think money might be a problem for flights, because I know those can get expensive. It will be in Minneapolis this year, and you will be able to get some help with your expenses, some of you, from the network, so you can apply for scholarships for the conference for that. Tips, I would go back to what I said at the beginning of our conversation. You're not alone, and you're not the first one going through this, so by all means, reach out to someone in the community. Reach out to one of these organizations. Narcolepsy Network has a message board if you want to do things the old-fashioned internet way, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but the Facebook pages we have, and on Twitter, and we now have a Tumblr, so you can reach out to us in a variety of ways, and we'd be happy to hook you up with someone who can help. We have a new resource program that actually connects you with people who are experts in a particular area. So if you're looking for help with school advocacy for your child, we have people who have a lot of experience with that, who've gone into schools and done that. And if you're looking for help with your legal rights, we have some help with that, and we can connect you with people in your area as well. So anyone who wants support, who wants a solution, reach out to the community.
Thanks, Melissa. Jessica, I'm going to go to you next. So please share with us what exciting things Project Sleep might have up and coming, and a tip that you might have, and then we'll go to Molly.
Great, thank you. We're really excited about the Project Sleep walks. We just had one, I forgot to mention, actually on Sleepy Saturday, and that was in Austin. But the rest of 2015, we have 4 more sleepwalks happening. The next one is in Washington, D.C., and this will actually make our 5th year that we've been doing the sleepwalks. So that's really exciting. So this will be the 5th anniversary at the one in Washington, D.C. in April. And we'll also be having one in Dallas, in Tampa Bay in September, associated with the Current Concepts in Sleep Conference, and then also one in Hawaii. So we're very excited about that. And also, this is our 2nd year of the Jack and Julie Narcolepsy Scholarship, and that's actually the first scholarship just for students with narcolepsy. And this year, we're planning to give out 4 or 5 scholarships, so that's really exciting, really just good stuff. So I would say, as a person with narcolepsy, that for people with narcolepsy to be patient with yourselves and also patient with others. There's so much misunderstanding out there, and also sometimes for us as we're learning. I think I learn something new about sleep disorders and narcolepsy every day. Jokingly, I call myself a sleep geek now. So one of my favorite sleep doctors, Dr. Cologne, said that that was the cool term. Not a sleep nerd, but a sleep geek. So that's my thing now. To be patient, to know that you know, take each day as it comes. We've got good days, we've got bad days, and that's okay. So take a breath and try again, and sometimes take a nap.
Thank you, Jessica. And I just want to go to a comment really quickly from Ruth, who's asking if you could post the link to the New York Sleep event somewhere easy to find. And Ruth, maybe I could ask all of our guest panel members, if I know you all have fabulous websites and wonderful, exciting things coming up. So if you would be willing to maybe post links to all of your various websites and events that you have coming up, underneath our Google Plus page underneath this video, so that people can go back and click on those links, that would be really helpful for them. So Jessica and Melissa and Monica and Molly, I wonder if you guys might be willing to do that for people watching. Would that be okay? Okay,
Absolutely.
great.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. And then Molly, I want to come back to you. I know that we kind of lost you and you're muted, so if you want to unmute yourself there, Molly.
Well, every time I speak, I get lost, so I feel like it's better for me to keep my mouth shut. I think this is twice when I'm saying something, I lose connection. So.
And what you were saying was so important about the NIH and research money, so I wonder if you might be willing to finish that point for us.
Yeah, I would say, you know, as people don't always have money to give, but people can write letters, send emails, and urge that more dollars be dedicated to narcolepsy research. Idiopathic hypersomnia research has even less funding than narcolepsy, but we constantly find, I mean, we just had a grant that was just submitted, and it didn't even make it to that stage where it got reviewed, because I think the people that are reviewing don't have an interest. And so I think that somehow we need to make the voice heard that people are interested in more narcolepsy research being funded, because it's a problem. The number of people who have multiple sclerosis have narcolepsy, and yet the funding is a fraction of what other disorders with similar numbers of people have. And so it really is something that those letters and those efforts can you know, really translate into millions of dollars for research. So it's certainly well worth, you know, the campaign. So all of you with the support organizations, I would encourage you to have, you know, help create form letters so that people can send them in and make email addresses available. That's another way, without having to, you know, dig into your pockets, that you can help improve the money situation in narcolepsy. I think everyone can do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have our marching orders from Molly, guys. So I think all of us can join in to the crusade here and help out. Thank you so much. Is there anything, Molly, that you guys have coming up at the Stanford Center of Medicine that you wanted to share with the community as we wrap up?
No, I mean, we just continue to be very busy, and you know, and we're always working to collect more blood samples, spinal fluid samples, and brain donations. So yeah, we continue to work in the area. We've known now for a long time that hypocretin is missing in people with the narcolepsy with cataplexy. We also understand that there's a difference in the T cells, or the immune cells, in people who develop narcolepsy, and we're further trying to hone in and identify what is that exact difference that causes this mistake of the immune system to happen. Once we figure all of that out, we actually will be able to prevent people from developing narcolepsy. But what we need more work to be done in is how to we need to get the drug companies working in the area of hypocretin replacement. And that, too, is one of those things that if there's enough voices heard, that maybe the drug companies would take an interest in doing that. So the drug companies are looking at it now, finally, but it's been, you know, a good 10 years since that discovery was made that you know, that they haven't looked at it. So again, it's just, I think if we keep doing what all of these great organizations are doing by creating awareness, that hopefully the voices will be heard, and more work will be done, and more work will be funded. It's expensive. Drug development costs, you know, millions and millions of dollars.
Thank you so much, Molly, for sharing that. And you know, what you say is so very true. And hopefully, as more and more people watch this video and attend the conferences and share, and help to raise awareness, that, you know, maybe with the power of all of our voices amplified together, we can all work together to make that happen. So, you know, that's kind of one of the goals of this show. And I'm so glad that you guys were all here for the show tonight. I just want to thank you all for joining us and fighting through the sleep to make it happen for everybody through all of our technical difficulties. We do our very best, and boy, do we keep Michael busy. Michael, thank you so much for helping us today make this Snooze TV event a success. And I want to thank our audience members. Man, you guys were great tonight. You posted tons of questions. Sadly, we weren't able to get to all of your questions even tonight, just due to time constraints, but we really thank you for your participation, and we'll encourage everybody to kind of go back and revisit the comments and see about posting responses to your questions after the show, or, you know, over the weekend and next week as we have time. I also want to mention that all the Snooze TV episodes are archived on the Hypersomnia Foundation website at www.hypersomniafoundation.org. And as Melissa was saying, the Narcolepsy Network has an upcoming conference. The Hypersomnia Foundation also has an upcoming conference. Ours is going to be in July in Atlanta, Georgia. And for more information, you can find that on our website as well. And as I stated at the very beginning of the show, this show airs the second Friday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the next episode will air on Friday, April 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for everybody out there in the community, please remember, we're not going to take it lying down, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.